Hey guys, I'm Rodney, and today we're going to show you guys how we use some scrap wood to create this DIY outdoor floor lamp. Alright, so for the main leg supports, there's basically going to be a base, and it's going to have two legs, and then there's going to be a third one that kind of sandwiches in between those two. That'll be a support for its vertical column. But I decided that I didn't like everything just being straight up. I wanted it to have a little bit more of kind of a design aesthetic. And so I came up with cutting it at 15 degrees. I don't know why 15 degrees, but that's just what we chose. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm just using the first one that I cut to trace the second one to get an idea of size, and then we'll still have some sanding and routing to do. We're gonna kind of soften up these edges and hope it all comes together wonderfully. And I am just kind of using some scrap 2x4s that we had. So that's where the sanding is going to become necessary. These guys are a little rough condition. And now what I'm going to do is reline these guys up, make sure that they are a good length. And since I've kind of already assembled it as like a little mock trial, I know that I've got my hole centered here already, so I'm just going to use that basically as a template or a guide to drill through the second one so that hole is in the exact same location. And now that hole is what's gonna house our carriage bolt. So the only thing I did have to get for this project was a 6-inch and a 4-inch carriage bolt. I had some washers and I had some little wing nuts. So basically that carriage bolt will feed through here to sandwich these two guys together, and then I'll have that vertical support. For the base, I'll probably also try to find some additional scrap wood and I guess glue it up to make kind of a platform. We are making this up as we go. This was my kind of mock template that I pre-assembled earlier to make sure I had balance. So you can see I just kind of used the scrap piece as skids and then it secured here. So I realized kind of what length or kind of what width I needed to work with for balance. See what other boards we've got. I've got two 2x8s and a 2x10. It should give me enough width, plenty of width. I'll use the 2x10 to anchor the legs to, and I'll glue these guys up. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of make kind of a triangular-like shape for the base. Let's see how this goes. And for projects like this, at least around here, I just kind of work off of a sketch and a random idea. Sometimes it's better to design these things out, but you know, we're just going with the flow. We decided last minute that we suddenly needed a outdoor floor lamp. So we'll see how this goes. Way too much glue per usual. Really solid surface here. There's this guy here. And we're kind of just doing a rough glue up because this is also going to be a little bit of a trial to make sure that this shape becomes well balanced enough for what we need. So again, a little bit of experimenting as we go. Now I don't have enough room for my clamps. Cool. Shit. having an appropriate amount of space to work, super important. It would have been a lot smarter to do that first. But here we are. Oh my God. All right, well, in my defense, I wasn't really expecting that I'd be gluing these up. So here we are. We got it figured out. All right, so we'll glue these up. And then once I cut out my shape, I think I'm gonna use a piece of plywood just to give it additional structure and kind of give it a cleaner top, I guess, would be a good way to look at that. So now that we've got our base gluing up, and while we wait for that to dry, we're gonna start doing some sanding, because we've got lots of that to do as always. And we've got all our parts and pieces cut out. So these are our arms that'll attach to the light. This is our in-between arm. I don't know really what to call it. But yeah, we've got to get it all sanded, and then I'm gonna take the router and I'm gonna kind of round over the edges just to soften them up instead of everything kind of having that square cut to it, just to make it feel a little more finished. We've already cut some interesting angles and things on pieces, so why not take it that extra step? I know sanding is like everyone's least favorite part, and it is very tedious, but I think it is something that I could literally do for like days. Just like zone out. It's so satisfying. Now that everything's sanded, I'm going to use this 1/4 inch, 1/4 round bit on the router just to kind of soften the edges of the arms of this lamp. I'm going to do these kind of strut pieces first. And I'm only doing a 1/4 inch because I don't want a huge bevel. I want just enough to kind of soften or take off that sharp edge. And again, we are using reused wood, so it's not perfect. It's not in perfect condition, so there's some chipping, so we'll just go back through with like a 220 grit. All right, so now that we've got everything sanded, we've softened up the edges, I'm gonna take our base that we glued together here, and I've kind of drawn a big, like, what would you call this? A big swooping kind of triangular shape for the base. I wanted something that felt kind of had that mid-century vibe to it, but was going to allow a big enough footprint to still have plenty of weight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our jigsaw, and I'll just kind of cut out that shape, and then we'll use a sander to clean it all up. All right, so what I did is I cut a little bit larger than my pencil line just to leave me some wiggle room to kind of shape it up. Like I can already see this is uneven. So that cutting outside of that just kind of allows me a little bit of cleanup. It's not gonna be perfect, but you know, we're kind of winging it. So we're just gonna shape it up, get a little bit more even on either side. A little bit better, kind of. We're gonna say it does make me feel better. All right, again, reminder, we're not really working with the design here, just kind of a sketch idea that I had. So this is a shape I think I can live with, so I'm gonna just take the sander, kind of clean up the edges, and see what it looks like. When doing a glue up, you usually have one side that's fairly decent as far as your seams lining up, especially when you've got them sitting on your clamps there. But on this one, this is a little high. It would be really cool if I had a planer. I would have planed these boards down to the same thickness before gluing them up, but I do not. So what I'm gonna try to do is actually switch over to the grinder and see if that works any better. Woo! All right, I'm also gonna use the 1/4 inch quarter round bit for the foot here, just again to kind of clean it up, make it feel a little dressier. All right, and even after sanding with the grinder, I did 80 up to 220. There's still a little bit of a lip here, but again, it's just an outdoor lamp. I'm not all that worried about it. It's good enough. It was all reclaimed wood anyways, stuff that was used from other projects or scraps left over. So for that fact, I think it looks pretty damn good. Good enough for me. Now we can start staining and then assembly. So we are going to, of course, use our Watco Danish oil in the dark walnut for the wood. It is just pine, so it's not going to be super dark, but I think it'll definitely blend a little bit better with some of the other furniture we already have. The other thing I've decided is, since there's so many kind of components in legs and struts and supports on this, I'm going to kind of do something a little bit different. I think the base and one of the struts are going to be a different color. And then the third leg will also be that other color. So then we get kind of the stained wood look as well as the painted look, and mostly doing that so that it really draws attention to the different components of the lamp. And I hope that makes sense, but we will get to see that when it gets all assembled. So we're finally to assembly, and we have these, I think they're 4-inch leg bolts for a future deck expansion project that's coming up. So we're going to use these to hopefully hold this a little more secure.
This is nice.
So we'll see.
It's a really nice, like, lacquered finish.
Yeah. What we're going to do is use a 2x4 in between as a spacer so that we can make sure to get these guys lined up right. So not super tight because the finish isn't perfectly dry. Good enough to hold it.
Battery?
Yes. All right, these leg bolts have a fairly large head on them. So on the base, I don't think they would squish in far enough. So I'm gonna use a drill bit that's the size of that head to do like a little pre-drill, basically to allow that to be recessed.
Beautiful. So now release the tension on this, push this in closer.
Yeah, you can start doing that. I'm gonna pre-drill the head for the other one.
Got it.
Push them together. And on this first elbow here, because it is two 2x4s with a 2x4 sandwich in the middle, we did use the 6-inch carriage bolt with a washer and then a wing nut on this side so that we can tighten and adjust. And then on the top, we're gonna have our double arm, and this will be the 4-inch because these guys are only about an inch thick. I think they're 3/4 of an inch. And this is what we'll sandwich through, whoops, through the center 2x4. Alright, you want to rotate this, make it easier?
Sure. Try not to knock you off.
Okay. Alright. And we did just have this laying around from another use that we had, I think, in our living room. And all I've done is, because it is a raw bamboo, I've just used the poly, the spray poly on this as well. But the 2x4 at the end here, just this little, I think it's a 5-inch cut. I drilled down through the center with a 1/2-inch bit so that I could feed the line up through it, and then I basically have a little screw at the end that sticks out. And then I'll take the excess and tuck it through. And I'm going to make one more loop through the back, which will be my secondary tie point. So if for some reason it does come off with a screw, there's at least something still holding it and it doesn't just fall straight on someone's head. And by looping it twice through that center hole, because the hole is only a 1/2-inch hole, it makes it tight enough inside the hole also where it doesn't feel like it's gonna slip. Alright. With our little battery powered light, it allows us to make it nice and bright. And actually, it's not battery powered, it is a rechargeable light, which actually is another great use for the Nicole rechargeable Magic Pro. And you can do other cool things, like have a little disco.
That's really pretty.
So with this design, we've got our base, and we basically made 2 legs that are stained and 1 vertical painted black. Those all have the leg bolts into the base there. And then we've got the carriage bolt with a wing nut so that this elbow can adjust up and down. A second carriage bolt and a wing nut there, so those double bars there can adjust up and down as well. And then the top one, it is fixed. It's just a little 5-inch 2x4, but it is a fixed piece there so that it can hold the light wire securely for us.
And Jake for scale.
So another cool use for the Nicole Magic Pro rechargeable light bulb. Most importantly, the whole project was built out of scrap wood. Is it perfect? No. Does it function? Yes. Is it done? Yes. Is it going to last forever? No, it won't.
You'll probably rebuild
But-
it next month.
Neither will we, honestly. And neither will its use in our yard. But it is the second, maybe even third life for some of this wood. So the fact that, you know, we can throw something like this together is pretty cool. But you know what will last forever? Our love for you.
Oh, I thought you were going to say our love for each other, but nah,
Well, that's questionable.
just you.
That's questionable. We love you guys, though. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys liked this video, make sure that you've liked and subscribed to the channel. You guys can check us out on other social media at Rodney and Jake. And as always, a huge shout out to all of our members. We'll see you guys next time.